All right, I think we're ready to start. We're probably
right.
looking at do minutes, Counselor, because of not having a quorum.
That's no problem. I think last time we couldn't do that either, so we'll just punt that to the next meeting and hope we have a quorum.
Yeah.
So I want to jump right into the item 2, project alternates.
Yeah, and I'll take that. What we have 2 items on the agenda today. One is the project alternates, and we want that to be sort of a relatively short discussion to just have everyone catch up with where we are on that. And then the big thrust for tonight is talking about where we are with the project at Longfellow, and that is where the bulk of our time will go. I think the alternates, what we really wanted to do is just update the building level advisory committee on where we are. As you know, we now have all 3 of the schools under contract, and the projects are beginning. And as you'll learn as we talk about the Longfellow project today, there's a significant amount of work just getting off the ground. And because of that, we really are not in a position to be able to make decisions about how to apportion the resources that are available to those alternates. At the most recent meeting of the district level advisory committee, we tabled a discussion about the process for being able to make those decisions until we had a better sense of how, if there were going to be any cost overruns in getting the projects off the ground. So really the purpose of the item today is to just let you know where we stand currently with the budget that's available for alternates, and to also just remind this group of what the alternates are that were costed out with the bid for Longfellow, and how this group had prioritized those alternates when they engaged with them previously. And, it's come up in both of the previous sessions that there, is likely to be an interest in revisiting those prioritizations given what we know today, which is different from what we knew back when this process started. But that's not the work that we're going to be doing today. Today's just really bringing you up to speed on where the project is, and just touching briefly on the alternates that have currently been envisioned and where we stand with the budget for the project overall. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark to share the PowerPoint that was in Board Docs and walk you through those 2 slides, and then start with the project update.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Superintendent Botonic. Can everyone see the screen, the slideshow? Okay, great.
Yes, I can see it.
Excellent. And again, we'll table the minutes, and I think Superintendent Botonic has already framed the discussion of the alternate, so we won't spend a ton of time on it, but we'll just kind of give everyone the context of where things stand at the present time that we receive bids for all of the projects. And so, and then we'll get into the status of where the projects are, or Longfellow. And so just kind of framing the conversation about what the budgets are. If we look at the total of all 4, including the license bid, the total construction value from the contractor's actual bids right now is roughly 51.5 million, and that is so if we think about the total of the BFOF bond, about 64 million, that's the portion of it that just goes to the construction. If we evaluate that 51.5 million relative to the budgeted amounts for construction, by the time we looked at the sort of Longfellow came in, and it was very close to what the budgeted funds were. Reiki, there was a significant savings or there was an underage from the budget to the actual bid of about 4.8, and then Presumpscot was on the other direction of 4.3 million over what was budgeted. And so after shifting all those funds and whatnot, we have right now looking at that $521,000 as a sort of surplus from the monies that were assigned to the construction costs. And so that's about a 1%. And so $521,000 is what initially we've got. That's not doesn't fall under some of the other contingent items or budget line items. If we look at that 521 and compare it to what the list or the cost of the alternates that came in at the time that bids were received, Longfellow, we had 4.7 million of alternates, and so that largely, and we'll look at this in the next slide, but that's largely the warming kitchen, the cafeteria and the warming kitchen is a big one. And then it was also the exterior masonry and the cast stone items on the exterior of the building. So those are attributed to the largest portion of that. And then the Reiki, 1.2 million, and some various alternates that they had identified as scope that would be desired. And then Presumpscot, we had about $800,000. So you can see right now that the 521 isn't certainly not going to meet the sort of the significant at all portion of the alternate costs. And so and we're not going to know exactly how much that 521 is still available until we get everything launched and underway and get a better handle on what the project contingencies are for each of the construction projects. With respect to the alternates, at the lower table on this slide, BLAC ranked alternates, that's the last, we all left it. That's kind of where you all folks weighed in on the prioritization of the alternates and what order you'd like to see funds spent on them. And then the upper is the one that we actually received with the construction bids. And so those are the actual construction costs from the contractors. What we didn't have, obviously, in the lower table was the kitchen cafeteria edition. That was one where, again, originally not included, then included, and then called out as an alternate to see what the price would be. I'm going to go through just very quickly. I know we don't want to spend a lot of time and get into the weeds on these items, but so I just want to go quickly kind of where the standing of these is and how the scope was translated through the construction documents. And so I'm going to start with the lower table, which was a new HVAC system. And what that at that time we were thinking, could we do almost a new system that would be specified for a new construction? But the challenge with this building is that it doesn't lend itself looking at that. So the item 3, which was new unit ventilators, and item 6, which was direct digital controls, those 2 line items right there contain most of the replacement of a new HVAC system. And so those kind of get wrapped up above where we have replaced unit ventilators and replace existing exhaust fans. That totaling almost $500,000, that really would be the new HVAC system. So it's contained in the pricing for the alternates. It's just not labeled the same way because of the way in evaluating the system and what the replacement system would be. The second item was windows, operable windows in the classrooms that were a lot easier to open. And I think we all remember through some of the CARES Act funding or preparing for COVID, that Steve and company, they went through and made a lot of improvements to the windows to get them operable. So that one was not included for that reason because it was undertaken prior to the bid. The fourth item, because I already talked about the new unit ventilators, that's part of that new HVAC or ventilation system. The fourth item is the exterior masonry, and that's repointing. That's rehabilitating the mortar between the bricks, replacing any cracked bricks, and then also the repairs of the cast stone, all those lovely molded concrete carvings that are really part of the character of Longfellow. And so that we did have a alternate price of $1.2 million for that work, and so that's identified up above. The next one is classroom wing nodes, and those are places within the hallway that were designed for breakout of the or outside of the classroom work, small group work, one-on-one, or areas for students to work independently. And those were priced in at about $260,000. So that one was included. The next one is the controls to control the ventilation system, the heating and ventilation system. And it was the system right now is a pneumatic system with the replacement of the unit ventilators that is identified in the alternate. There would be a replacement every time we would replace a unit ventilator. We replace the controls that go with it, and so those would change anyway. So there didn't need to be a separate line item for that as an alternate. So that's included in the HVAC work in the unit ventilators and the exhaust fans. And then lastly, it was the interior door replacement, and that is all the doors that aren't new, to have them replaced with the same quality and character as the new doors that we're putting in. So there would be a uniform look throughout the school. And that was done, and the value of that was $127,000 as the contractor priced it. And then the last item, as I said, that's in the alternate list is the kitchen cafeteria addition. So I'll pause for any questions.
So I have my hand up, and at the risk of stating the obvious, I think the kitchen cafeteria addition was not ranked at all, because at the time that Longfellow was ranking alternates, we believed that the kitchen cafeteria addition was included in the bids. It was later in the process that we learned that the addition would exceed the amount available for the fund. So that's where, we said earlier that in the Reiki and Brezomscott meeting, people talked about ranking these alternates. Obviously, in the case of Longfellow, that would, that had not been considered, so it would need to be considered. It also, again, at the risk of stating the obvious, far exceeds the amount of money that we currently have available for any of the alternates. So, I think that's also something that needs to be weighed.
Anybody have any questions? I don't see any other hands up. I don't see any. Thanks, Mark and Javier.
Okay, so the next piece is the second item on the agenda, which is the project update. So the first item is, what has the contractor been up to during the summer here since the award? And so the big push at the beginning was to get the portables onto foundations, and so in order to do that, we had to get the permit for the portables, get the portables installed. We had to get them here, which was also an effort to make sure that we get them in a timely fashion with all the ventilation systems in time for the school year. So that was an effort to get them here plugged in and get stairs and ramps to them, and get all the utilities connected. So that was a big effort. That has been done. The next piece was the excavation. The contractor has actually started the excavation for the addition onto the back, as well as the elevator tower. And so those pieces are underway with the site contractor excavating for the foundations for those. There's been abatement ongoing that was identified also as part of the first phase of the work in the first floor corridor. And then with respect to that, when we removed the ceilings on the first floor, which had hazardous containing materials, we had to put up a separation between what will be the contractor's work area during the school year and the occupied portions of the building. And so that required that we installed a rated ceiling to be part of that barrier. So the existing walls corridor walls are going to form part of that barrier, but they need to extend the fire rating, that 1 hour rating, beyond simply the wall, because the existing ceiling was a good smoke barrier, but it didn't have a rating in it. And so we've installed a temporary ceiling in the corridors, and we'll show you a picture of that in a minute. And then in addition to that, we had some utilities that were running new in the corridors, and we're framing around those risers, those new utility areas. We call those the bump outs, if you will, the box outs in the corridors. And those were underway this summer. And then demolition on the lower level is just gearing up. And so there's contractor, in fact, has a notice of trying to get rolling on that as its next step here in the now that we've got some of the corridor ceilings and whatnot completed. So the next picture is a little old. It's about a week old, I think, but it shows some of the significant activity. So you can see the first floor temporary ceiling grid. So the grid is installed, and then that has since been flooded with the rated ceiling tiles. And so all of it now looks like standard white suspended ceiling. That's been installed, and then lighting has been installed as well. All of that needed to happen in order for us to get students back into the building for the start of the school. And so that has been a tremendous amount of effort going back and forth in cooperation with the city to get it to a point where they've checked off everything on their list to make sure it's safe and meets all the codes, and the contractor has followed through and got everything done. And so again, it was no small feat to get to that point. And so we're nearly there with everything. Steve, I think you were there this morning, Steve Stilfen, with one of the inspectors as one of the final sign-offs for it. And I think that went well, I think. Is that correct with Jason Grant?
Yeah, it did. Jason walked through our fire inspector. He said, okay, so we're looking good for the finalization of that. He's on vacation tomorrow, I think, but he was very pleased. And our next challenge, as Mark is going to outline here a little bit, is we need the building permit. Right.
Absolutely. So that again, that was a lot of the work for abatement that happened over the summer, and then occupancy for the fall. You can see on the right-hand side, we have, you can see some of the work that's been going on the site. And if you look closely, you'll see there's a dumpster where my cursor is right here, but beyond it, you can see the retaining wall against the courtyard. And so the addition is going right here in the foreground. And you can see where the contractor has ramped a gravel or ramp up to gain access into the courtyard to excavate for the elevator. So that's occurred in that area, and so that's pretty exciting that we're starting to get some of the infrastructure, utilities, stormwater infrastructure installed as well, and that's what you can see in the foreground here. The other piece that had to happen in order for all of the phasing to work was the portables, and so you can also see those that were installed in the upper parking lot. We've got gravel and new slab foundations, and then the portables, all three portables that have been set, and those are ready now for the start of the school year. So that also required separate permitting, separate inspection, and separate certificate of occupancy. So we've had a lot of back and forth with the city in order to get all this to happen. And I'll pause for a second before I move to the next piece of this.
Are you pausing for questions, Mark?
Yeah, if questions, comments, anything, absolutely.
Anybody have anything? Just raise your hand. I don't see anybody.
Okay. So as Steve alluded to, we've got the permits. There's two permits that we have to receive. The first was for the portables themselves. And so in order to even install the portable classrooms for the duration of the construction, we had to get a permit for them and for its foundation. And because they're actually considered permanent structures because they're going to be in use more than 6 months. And so they have to comply with all, with a range of life safety and building codes. And so that required a permit, and then it also requires inspection and certificate of occupancy, which allows us to occupy those spaces. So, and all that's, again, a process with the city. The second piece is to get the actual building permit to allow the contractor to really get going at full steam ahead on the construction. So even though we've had some abatement and demolition activity, which is allowed, they haven't been able to go back and really roll forward with the project scope to any significant amount yet. And so that is what we're waiting for the permit. We've been going back and forth with them. There was a few important considerations. One is with an existing building that was built, many years ago, there oftentimes are different ways to interpret how code applies to these existing buildings. And one of them was looking at how the upper level, the second floor, the stairs come down from, as we all know from our familiarity with the school, the stairs near the seams outside, they empty from the second floor down into the corridor of the first floor. And new code requirements say they have to lead directly to the exterior. So one of the things that we're doing is we've created, through conversation with the city, they said they would like to see us rate one of the stairs to the exterior. So creating an enclosure that once you go into the stair, you have a protected path of egress directly through the stair and then through a rated corridor to the outside. And so the one that's near Deering High School, that's the stair that we're going to create this rated corridor to go through. That's required some changes to our documents to put those details before the city, and that's been done. And so we have just a few small items that I think are remaining with respect to the phasing of the project and providing enough information that the city wants to see regarding the site and building phases to make sure that at every phase that the building is code compliant. And so that's an area that we're working with the city, and that's the last piece to get the permit. So we think we're really close to getting the permit for Longfellow and getting things rolling forward. So that's the good news with respect to that. Longfellow is further ahead than the others just because, again, it was the first one under contract and one that we've been concentrating quite a bit on. I'll pause again and see if there are any. Well, let me just make the last note of this, which is right now we don't anticipate there's a significant impact to the overall construction schedule caused by waiting for the permit, but that's something that we're monitoring and working with the contractor carefully with. So right now it's sort of a stay tuned, but we don't anticipate anything at present, but we're still waiting for the permit. Now I'll pause here.
Do we have any questions for Mark on this? I am not seeing any hands go up. I will just make a comment. I've been fairly apprised of the work that's been going on, and I just want to commend the project team and the city inspection staff for your collaboration and work to try to get this done in time for school to open, and really doing everything you can to make sure students and staff will be safe, in the unlikely event that we have some sort of a issue in the school while it's occupied. So I really want to pass along my appreciation for all the work that's been going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, it really has been a lot of effort on everyone's part. So, and appreciate all the support that has come from others to make that happen too. I know there's been a lot of effort on the administration of the city and the school district.
Yeah, no, I appreciated all of that. So,
can I just, while we're on that, also acknowledge the flexibility of the Longfellow staff and administration, because we had to move our schedule around this week in order to be able to do all of the catch-up work to be able to get to the certificate of occupancy. And there has been a tremendous amount of support from the city and obviously our team working really hard. But the folks at Longfellow are the ones that have had to endure the change of their routines for getting ready for the start of the school year. So I just want to recognize that as well.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I don't see any other hands.
Great. Well, so the very last slide we have is just next steps and for this group to reconvene. And our next meeting we have is on the 23rd. So right now, that's we'll know a lot more about how things are shifting into a faster speed at that point, and then contractor underway. We anticipate at that point we'll have the permit, but we'll keep everyone appraised as we move forward. And certainly school will be underway, and we'll know and share more at that time. So that's what we had.
Well, great. Thank you. Good luck to the staff online with the start of the school year, and good luck to the project team for all the work that's starting and ongoing. Any Javier or Mark, you have anything left?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
have a good night.
Yep, everyone, thanks for joining us tonight.